What job allows no F-ups? If you enjoy this video, please give it a thumbs up and subscribe for new daily videos. The person who checks the safety harness on a bungee jump. I did a rock climbing wall with my friend when we were 18. They messed up and didn't secure her harness. I watched her fall from the very top. 2 weeks in the hospital. 2 months in rehab. It was awful. Edit. So I don't have to reply individually to everyone. It was 2 months, if I remember correctly, in a rehab center, and then continued physical therapy for a while. It was at a resort. That is stuff like the alpine slide, trams, a zipline, a rock climbing wall, etc. I'm guessing it was a 40 to 50 feet, 14 to 15 meters, drop. They paid all of her medical bills, and an additional $100,000 so she wouldn't sue. She took it without a fight, because her and her family didn't want a big long drawn out process. She's mostly fine now. She got some finger numbness where they messed up her nerves in surgery. Also still has pins in her pelvic bone that could potentially cause issues with a pregnancy or birth. Underwater welder. And they have the fatality rate statistics to prove it. Saturation divers in general, anytime you need to be that deep for that long, any screw up can be the last one you make. Underwater cave diving is generally thought of as being similarly dangerous. However, nowadays, you can be trained, and if you spend the time to learn and understand how to avoid the main risks, you can do it relatively safely. Shout out to Dive Talk, diver in training, and route to becoming cave diver right here. 100%. Most people think if you go in an underwater cave, you're bound to die. That's true, only if you're not properly trained for it. If you get the correct training, then the risk is dropped dramatically. But in reality, any kind of tech diving can be 1 or 2 F-ups away from death. We have to respect the caves and water. You're not kidding. I have a bud who did this job, and he very nearly lost his life. I'm not 100% on the details, but from what I remember, there was an issue with the oxygen supply. His partner, they dive in teams, panicked and made them surface too quickly. They both got the bends. The partner died. My bud almost did, and was in hospital for months. He didn't return to the role, much to the relief of his family and me. The people who climb and repair those radio towers. My brother fell off one of the towers while working on it. His harness luckily caught him and they got him down, and he was immediately fired. What did he do wrong? Lost his grip and fell. If he didn't have his safety harness on, he would have died. And that's a huge liability most employers are not willing to deal with. So yeah, if you fall once, it's a done deal. Yep, part of my job as a safety officer in construction is inspecting safety harnesses and lanyards. If they have even the smallest stitch come undone, or frayed, or if it has bit of dirt caked onto them, they go immediately into the trash. We need to be extra anal about fall protection. Any lack of due diligence could land my superintendent in jail, or millions in fines if anything were to go wrong. At my old job, I inspected all of the climbing and fall protection gear used by power line technicians at a utility. I lost count of the number of times I found straps that were partially, or completely, severed, and put back together with electrical tape. Bomb Squad Expert. Bomb Squad slogan. If you see me running, try to keep up. Best thing I've heard to explain bomb experts are, either you get it right, or suddenly it's not your problem anymore. Air traffic control. At one point, if I remember correctly, it was ranked the most stressful job in the world, based on number of decisions per minute. You're responsible for a lot of lives. We do have a lot of lives in our hands, but we do mess up occasionally. We are human after all. We fix it and move on. There are a lot of backup systems in place to make sure everyone is safe. As a pilot, I'd also like to add, we don't follow directions blindly, so we are part of the backup system. Except in London airspace. There you do as you're told, and pray. What's so unique about London airspace? They fly on the wrong side of the air. My buddy was in the Air Force. He eventually got a job as an air traffic controller. I remember him telling me that he only worked a few hours a day, maybe something like 4 or 6 hours, I forget, and that he wasn't allowed to work them consecutively, that you had to take breaks after a few hours of work. I think he made something like $130,000 or $150,000 a year. I remember thinking that it was insane how much he made for working such few hours, but then he told me that he didn't think he'd be sticking around doing the job for much longer because it was the most stressful thing he had to do, and that he couldn't imagine doing it long term. He ended up quitting after a few years and took on a huge pay cut, but he was thrilled that the consequences to any mistakes he'd make at his new job was so minor that he didn't have any stress at all. Anesthesiologist. My cousin is an anesthesiologist at a teaching hospital. He has some stories. People with multiple pre-existing conditions, the complex cocktails of meds and monitoring needed. Dang, not a profession that tolerates mistakes. And you don't lie to your anesthesiologist. They don't care if you recreationally use opioids, or pot, or something even heavier. Not disclosing to them could be fatal. 3 people you never lie to. Any medic, your lawyer, yourself. I once woke up while under. It was unpleasant. The doctor later advised me to always tell the anesthesiologist that I require a heavy dose of meds. He also seemed unsettled on what it took to sedate me. Anything involving space travel, or being aboard an active duty submarine. In the early days of submarines, you could destroy the whole boat by flushing the toilet wrong. I imagine things are a lot safer nowadays. When I was on a boat, one of my gangers repeatedly pressurized the sanitary tanks, without hanging signs to warn people, and blew shit all over the chief's quarters head. I don't think he did it on purpose, but he did get taken off the watch bill for a long while. My ex made a small miscalculation on an industrial part he was engineering, for like a big crane, and cost his company hundreds of thousands of dollars, and they had to shut down. The part was for a high precision valve, where even a fraction of a millimeter is the difference between something being perfect and absolutely useless. As a web developer, if that was the case in my industry, I would be out of a job today. Smart companies put multiple checks by different people along the line. If something is that critical, if your business plan is relying on one person not to make a math mistake, you've already effed up. You're just waiting for the fallout. Astronaut. If you mess up in space, it's usually bad. Oh, Lord, imagine drifting away from Earth, like there is no return. Scary stuff. It might actually be a kind of peaceful death. You don't just suddenly run out of oxygen and gasp for air, I think. The oxygen just becomes less and less concentrated, and you kinda slowly drift off to sleep. Might be kinda nice, as long as you have a good view. If you're drifting off to space while also spinning 3 revolutions per second, that'd kinda suck.